I found purpose. I found I found the beginning of my legacy there. Like,
What's up, y'all? Welcome to Tea Time with Letitia on Gratified Grad, where it's my goal to help you graduate with gratification. In today's video, I am drinking some chamomile tea. I've drank this tea before, and some of my guests have drank it also before, so this will just be a reiteration, but it is a relaxing and calming tea. And in today's video, I'm going to have a conversation about transitioning and maximizing your transition, especially if you're looking to change your field of interest and your studies. With that, I'm going to let my guest introduce himself.
hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Clausell Stokes III. I am currently drinking coffee, and my health fact about coffee, there are too many, but here's an important one, is that it is rich in disease-fighting antioxidants. I am a federal policy assistant for my organization called Ceres.
Y'all know I'm not really a huge fan of coffee, but I'm not going to completely just say that I won't allow anybody to drink coffee during tea time with Letitia because I understand that there are some health benefits to it. You have a bit of a different story, right? So you got your undergrad degree and you are now taking some time off before continuing on with your higher education.
Yes. And that is specific to my situation. So my career goal is to be an environmental lawyer. Since graduating and prior to that, I have been in a number of informational interviews with lawyers of different types, specifically or emphasized a lot of environmental lawyers. And one thing that they all told me was to take gap years before going to law school. One, just to really solidify why I'm going to law school, why I'm going to higher education, and two, to build out some of those connections and networks prior to, specifically because I'm going to like a specialized field of law, which is somewhat more recent than others, and has is starting to grow. It's only starting to grow now during recent terms, 2016. That there is the worry or fear that if I go to a law school, unless it's some of the top law schools, I'll be learning the theory of law and the practices versus my specific goal with just environmental law, the environmental statutes, the NASDAQ rules, for example. And so during these gap years, I've taken a position that is closely related to my chosen field and degree in the future that will help me build a background, a foundation where I can apply all those theories of law.
Okay. Actually, I never really, in the conversations that we had, I've never really thought about the fact that for you, like when, not even just you, when anybody goes to law school, they're just learning the law, right?
It depends on the law school and the program. Um, some of them have really robust curriculums that really tackle environmental law. Some of them don't. Law school is like medical school, essentially. There are the top tier ones you want to get into, but I want to just get into a good one, and it may or may not have my chosen curriculum. And on top of that, as I mentioned earlier, environmental law is somewhat new. It's been around for a long time, but from what I've looked around to, its introduction into law curriculum, like law school curriculums, is somewhat more recent, and only the top percent law schools have a good foundation with that.
Okay. So that takes a lot of planning and like foresight, especially considering you're beginning to navigate a new field, a new area, and having to, so it's not like you're just doing a traditional, I don't know, malpractice law degree, right? Where there's, I don't know much about law programs, but I feel like most law programs will cover that basis,
Yes.
that spectrum of information. So for you to take the time to think about, well, one, ranking is important, and two, just because it's highly ranked doesn't necessarily mean that it will put emphasis on the environmental law that I'm interested in. You have added like another layer of your own protection in this process by going ahead and getting into that field. And
I've been practicing this speech with numerous people, and I understand that it is complicated. My company's theory of change. So my company is called Series. It's about 30 or more years old. It is a nonprofit whose sole purpose, and this is the underlying purpose of the company, is to help the private sector become more sustainable. Is to help big businesses, small businesses, but we mostly do our work with big businesses because they make the most impact. Try to benchmark their current sustainability, where they're at within in regards to sustainability of their emissions, type 1, type 2, all the way type 3, or scope 3, how they're using water in the most efficient way, how they are impacting deforestation, their supply chains, how they are being advocates for climate legislation in Congress, and how we also work with investors to encourage those companies or the broader market to encourage the practices. So that is the overarching theme of the entire company: make the private sector more sustainable. Because we like to think that, even if we go into in a post-apocalyptic world, markets will still be the same. So if we can try to impact those to at least consider the impacts, their economic, social, and environmental impacts around everyone else, and governance impacts, then this world will be a much better place to live in. So now, me specifically, I work within the federal policy department of this organization. And what we do is we get some of the more stellar, some of the more progressive in terms of environmental agendas or sustainability agendas of those companies. You can consider Nike, you can consider Starbucks, McDonald's are part of our networks. We try to mobilize them to talk to state and federal congressmen, congresswomen, governors, agencies, to impact market regulations, to incentivize renewable energy procurement, or to get to change market regulations just to incentivize increased growth and sustainability. And there are a number of reasons why we want to do this that I can get into later.
Okay. So in your current job then, are there lawyers, or I'm sorry, in the current nonprofit that you're working for, are there lawyers there?
We don't have any active lawyers, and the key word is active. We have a lot of lawyers, former lawyers, who have joined the cause for sustainability, come into Series. My boss, Ann Kelly, is one of the is one of the most renowned lawyers, or at least that's what I've been told, on environmentalism. Has a high standing amongst those circles. The president of the company was also a lawyer who eventually headed, I believe, a region of the EPA. So, but yes, we have a lot of lawyers with a lot of background into this field.
Okay. So that puts a bit of a perspective for me, just because like in thinking about your transition, and that this transition time that you're taking, one, like you are placing yourself around lawyers. And I'm guessing the lawyers are well versed in environmental lingo and environmental topics that pertain to the law field. And you're learning the jargon. So it's kind of like you're taking like a prep course.
I would say yes and no. So there is a distinction between law and policy. My career goal is to use law to shape policy. However, they're not necessarily being lawyers in the office. They're using their background expertise, but we are actively engaging with policy, and that is a lot more layman terms, a lot more common jargon, PR, publicity, trying to get messages out. So the benefit of me working with them is that I have access to these environmental lawyers. And remember, this is a very niche field in the first place, environmental law. So I have access to these niche lawyers. They have connections, networks that I am trying to be connected with or engage with. But what's most important of all is that they are already achieving the career path I want. My next goal is environmental lawyer. My end goal is to impact environmental policy and law using my law degree, which is exactly what they're doing right now.
Wow. Okay. I see how you've just like created that full circle right there, and that you're getting to see your end goal, like what it looks like in the day-to-day life, because you're working with these people. But then also you have a clear outline step by step on how you can actually get there. I find that a lot of people, including myself, like I'm still on the fence of what exactly I want to do with the rest of my life after I graduate. But a lot of people don't have that clear step by step. And even thinking about those transition periods of, how do I navigate the fact that the school that I go to may not put as much emphasis on environmental law as I would like. So I want to take a little step back and kind of talk about your undergraduate work. So can you give us some information about you, where you went to undergrad, what did you study?
All right, and I'll also try to make it full circle. So I went to Carleton College, a small liberal arts college in Northfield, Minnesota. So I really enjoyed chemistry. Now, to make the link between my chemistry degree and environmental career path or trajectory, because that comes later, I had taken an internship 1 year, I believe my sophomore year, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I was advocating, door knocking for local education system reform. And that was my first exposure to policy.
You're telling me that you stepped completely out of the laboratory, the chemistry field, and you did something different.
Right. So I was a bit of an oddball. Remember that my first goal was completely obliterated in coming to Carleton College, and I chose chemistry as my rebound. And at that point, I was still searching for myself of what I wanted to do. And I was open to any internship. This was sophomore year, get any internship you can just to get some work experience. And that's what I ended up with. And I
Okay.
don't regret it.
I
don't
like
regret it.
that. I like that you didn't do the norm, right? You gave yourself an opportunity to try something.
At the end of that internship, I realized that I liked the policy aspect of it, meeting with those leaders and trying to gauge how they are thinking about policy, or how these policy instruments affects the work of the livelihoods of many different people. And I realized that when I already have a chemistry degree. At the end of those 4 years, I'm going to have a $250,000 degree that somebody's paying for, and I spent 4 years on. I want to put it to some tangential use, and at the very least, and I found a happy middle in environmental policy and law. I found purpose. I found the beginning of my legacy there, like what I hope would be my legacy there.
That is a profound statement. I just want to like really pause you in this moment because I want you to realize what you just said. Like, do you realize what you just said?
Yes.
That is a profound statement. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It was good when I found that out, and I would not let anything stop me from that. So over those 2 years, since I had discovered that I wanted to at least try environmental policy and law, since that internship on education reform, I had been testing it out every step of the way. It culminated at the end of my senior year, where in undergraduate, where I did an internship to see the health impacts of certain, we're trying to word this carefully, certain practices in developing countries, to juxtapose that with the developed country of Germany, where I went to Ethiopia, I went to capital Addis Ababa to help my professor, who had won a Fulbright scholar, to impact air quality. Following my graduation, I was determined to have my first job be in a related field, or at least an internship. In this, I did not recommend to anybody to wait this long, but I had a 6 months gap since graduation to an internship in Boston. And I live in Houston, Texas, by the way. However, it was in this specialized field, niche field, and I wanted to go nonprofit because I think that would have my most interest. And jobs in nonprofit themselves are determined largely by funding and opportunity and luck of when opportunity arises, because they're not for profit, they're not expanding, they're not trying to legitimately just expand as much as they can. It largely depends on external factors. Because of that, it was 6 months before I found an internship working for the Environmental Defense Fund in Boston, Massachusetts. There, I worked on connecting local communities with larger national nonprofits. And we're going into a completely separate topic here, but just so you know, when it comes to national environmental nonprofits specifically, there's a stigma against them because they were historically ran by older white men, and that's still kind of how it stands today. And when they do try to engage with local communities or non-traditional organizations, is what some of the literature say, or marginalized groups, they come in with all the answers without listening to us. And then
rule number one broken.
And then when they leave, and something bad happens, they're nowhere to be found. Or if they want our support and they don't support any of our agendas at all, then there's a lack of trust